check, check. Welcome to the Walker Talkers. Smells like shit. Oh my god, there's some barnacles on it and shit.
Marco, Polo.
What was he eating, like a slug or something?
We can go around.
Some dark ass
Shallow spots
fluid
straight
around
ahead.
his mouth hole.
We clear them out. That's how we get our people through. You ready?
Yeah. Alright. The old boy's pretty good for, like, you know, being on his own.
He's kind of like still in the element of being
Being a badass.
of being basically out in the wilderness, and you know, he's still fresh, so it's not like a problem for him to be like, yeah, I'll volunteer and go. And
Did he ever answer those? I forget.
Pave the
Did
way.
he answer those questions? Did he answer how many he killed? I forget.
yeah, Carl asked him.
Oh yeah, I just forget the numbers.
Yeah.
That's
He had the exact numbers. He was one of the few characters to say like 37 or whatever, like the number was.
Right.
And that was pretty intense. Hey everybody, welcome to Walker Talker.
What up? I'm Aaron.
Pete.
This is brought to you by PanNerdia. Welcome, welcome. We're here to talk about The Walking Dead Season 8B, Episode 11, and then we're going to predict what's going to happen on Episode 12 later. But now,
So episode 1-1. It was a dandy. It was a Rickless episode, except for
Right.
a few mentions, and I believe it ended with the gates opening. Rick was walking in. This is of course after everybody found out at Hilltop. When the Alexandrians came in that Carl had passed. That was a really rough moment.
absolutely.
I mean, they did really well. Like, I was a little choked up, more so than I was in the whole Carl, like, Swan Song episode.
Yeah, I
Just
was too,
for
man.
some weird reason. I don't know why. You'd think it'd be the other way around. But
Yeah, when Enid was crying, it actually, I was actually rewatching some clips in preparation for the Walker Talkers today, and it was a tearjerker. It got me going again. I just was clipping through to see some scenes, and I saw her crying. I was like, man, so they still getting you, even after.
Yeah, even when you knew, it must have been on the preview, like, that must be Enid finding out about Carl.
Right.
Okay, and then it happens, like, oh. There's, like, a little stab to the gut. Man, that sucks.
Dang it.
But we'll start off with the swamp scene. Daryl leads Alexandria survivors with Dwight's help. Tara tries to 3 times to kill Dwight. Dwight explains to Daryl, though, during that walk through the woods towards the swamp, all about his Lady Sherry and how she escaped, and he hopes she's still alive. And so he showed some sort of humanity there, and how there was a big master plan, even though he helped Negan with all the torturing and the imprisonment of
Right.
Daryl back
Mhm.
in season 6, right?
Yeah, and he's had a big arc, a big character arc, which I really appreciate. But I don't appreciate the character arc of Tara, because, to be honest, does she really have one? She kind of has been the same cocky little shithead the whole time. Just now she kind of has more of a group to back her, so she has like a platform to stand on to a degree.
Yeah.
But I want to see that shit ripped out, man. Why isn't she on the fucking chopping block instead of Lauren Cohan?
Right. That would
like
save them some money to pay off Laura to come back in season 9, possibly to 10. But man, that's a whole other bag of wax. But
It's not a big fan of Tara.
Right. Tara, though, she does share something in common with Daryl, and that is the whole hating Dwight, wanting to kill Dwight thing eventually. But basically, the swamp crossing, Rosita was baller, so was Sadiq.
Yeah, Rosita getting the kill. Oh
They-
yeah, with last week we talked about the kills. Remember?
Yeah, and I it seemed kind of even across the board
I
between
think
the
so.
3 of them, wasn't it? I
Right.
mean, you could count, but you could also see in the background there, as they're doing close-up shots of one walker getting stabbed, in the background, Sadiq's off of this one, and so on and so on. So it's kind of even down the board, I guess. And Dwight led the way, Dwight led the way for Tara after Tara lured him into the woods to kill a walker, and then eventually tried to kill him, only to stumble across a group of saviors that happened to be one of Dwight's ex-posses that he would lead.
because they like really looked up. They're like, "What's up, D?"
Yeah, what's up, D? Here, have a gun. And they just threw him a big old gun.
He's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna make the plans now. Let's go."
Right, and once Tara saw that, all of a sudden it was like she saw the light. After everything that happened, it took that for Tara to be like, okay, I guess he is cool. He's doing the right thing. There are some good people in the world, even though, he shot my lover through the eye socket with the aircraft.
Yeah.
But what else do we have here? Dr. Carson and Gabriel get lost on the road and find a house with a vehicle and a full-out radio equipment like station. But only also find the radio homes, the guy that lived there, the owner, he was basically a walker now, and he obviously committed suicide with his pills and didn't want to kill anybody, so he handcuffed himself to the bed. And I'll tell you what, special effects-wise, after watching Chris Hardwick and the guy that played Dr. Carson, they explained that gag, which is so cool. All the different little gags, the practical stuff is really neat. They had this guy stick his head under the bed, and then they had this like bust molded to like his shoulder to look like that was his head. It was like a walker animatronic head that moved around in a plastic bag.
Oh, that's cool.
So not only did the guy like take pills, but he like tried to suffocate himself because it was like he had like a bag over
his head. I remember that.
And all those pills were various antibiotics, which basically saved Gabriel's life and was going to also possibly be useful for someone else down the road. But the blindness he couldn't escape. The gunk in his eyes from all the crap that him and Negan put on to suit up, and the guts to get back into the sanctuary was what did it.
Yeah. Totally gave him an infection.
So now we know, every time they do those gut ponchos,
they're at risk.
You gotta keep that walker goop out of your orifices.
Yeah, it's like eating hot wings. You don't want to touch the eyes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But can we definitely touch on with Gabriel and his whole it's kind of like proverbial sense of the episode with the inclinations and connections with God and stuff.
Yes.
And
it seemed like one thing after another was happening, and Dr. Carson went from a total non-believer to like, okay, coincidence to, okay, I guess it is meant to be, God or not, like every little thing is going our way. They smashed open the, by accident, Gabriel was tipped over the big piggy bank, and inside were car keys and a map. It's like, and that's of course after they found the antibiotics. So that got Dr. Carson so positive that he is like, well, they're not going to kill me. I'm the doctor. They need to save me. So he saw his opportunity. He grabbed a gun in that back of that pickup truck, and he got popped. And Gabriel went from, this is all happening for a reason to, what?
It was a pretty sad moment,
it just
man.
all got washed away. Drove off. The look on his face was priceless. I think Seth, the actor, did a great job.
He did a really good job this episode. I really think so. And then he gets shipped off to help Eugene out, and
Eugene, who is now a boss of his own outpost.
And how did that start off? Well, it started off with him talking to Negan, and Negan looking pretty pissed with Lucille standing up at the spotlight. You're ready to whop Eugene.
Yeah, totally.
Seemingly.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere with another great idea, like catapulting walkers to scare them while he has a little more time to make bullets and all that. And I guess that's when the light bulb went off in Negan's head. That's why he said, a rose just sprout out of that shit,
Right.
Or because basically he wasn't necessarily thinking about the catapults, which he might do, but he was thinking about the whole spreading the guts, which was one of our predictions, which was an easy one because in the comics he does exactly that. He does the demonstration with wipe your weapons in the walker guts, just wound them and scare them. And in the previews you see Simon saying the exact words, Negan's instructions, but kind of reluctantly, but he's saying it.
Right.
So that's something to keep an eye out. We're going to talk about Simon a little bit more in a second here, but what else do we got about Hilltop? Morgan and Carol protect Henry from the truth.
Right.
Basically told him he already killed the guy that killed his brother, which was Gavin, which really wasn't Gavin. It was the long-haired douchebag that's got to die a slow, painful death.
Which, they definitely showed him at the gates, ha ha ha, and I'm just like, man, I cannot wait. Pretty calm in terms of Morgan and Carol this episode, though. But another kind of development underway continually is Maggie and I forget the guy's name, but he's part of the Saviors who's trapped. He's kind of the smooth-talking one.
The soft-spoken one.
Right.
I think that guy, from what I saw on comicbook.com, he lives on and becomes not a love interest of Maggie, but maybe a lover. But that's just now happening in the comics. So I had to go there just because it's like all these things that they're not doing to match up with the comics are totally fine. I get it. But don't match up that one. That one's kind of lame. I'm kind of like...
She's going to be like the Daenerys in like Game of Thrones, and she's just like Mac Daddy Queen, and she just fucks who she wants, and then leaves them dry, high and dry.
Another reason why they need to switch from AMC to HBO for this show.
Yeah, no shit.
Although they get away with a ton of stuff. I mean, I can't remember how many times I've heard shit in prime time.
Right, no doubt.
I think Negan says shit like 10 times every episode at least.
They're doing a good job with that, by the way, with how much he cusses in the book.
I'm glad you brought up Maggie, though, because even though she didn't have a lot to say, but her and the bow woman, that's now a hilltopper, the regular bow and arrow chick.
Right.
They went over the rations and versus like giving anything to the prisoners, and I thought, well, Maggie's not going to go soft, but towards the end of the episode, she decided to go a little soft, just to show some remorse, because at this point now, she's got leadership from Alexandria coming back and stuff too, and she knows she has more people to manage the whole prison thing going on.
Right.
All Alexandrian survivors reach Hilltop unscathed, as well as Enid on her own. Carl's death revealed. That goodbye was just as hard, if not harder. We spoke about that. But Negan talks to Carson to Gabriel, and says, Carson's the one that escaped because he's just like his brother.
So this is by the point when they're in the bullet factory already.
They're in the bullet factory.
So back to Eugene real quick. His operation. He's, making the bullets now, and he's kind of, he's back in that cocky attitude. He's got one of the girls there, one of Negan's wives, to make him food and stuff, and she's trying to be sweet talking.
And to wipe my brow, wipe his brow.
Right.
My brow's gonna get sweaty. Gotta wipe my brow. I'd have been like, well, I guess we could take a 15-minute break.
Yeah, right.
Just to sort of like, relax before going into non-stop 24-hour bullet making.
Yeah, and then Negan rolls in with who else but Gabriel, and of course Eugene immediately is just like sweating under the collar, and
he says, "I am a gape." I am a gape. What a classic little short line that we'll never forget.
And so basically, he's like, I found out something, and then he's like, it was Dr. Carson.
Oh, wait, it's not a gape. It's Agog. A-G-O-G. I am Agog.
A gape would have been funnier, but hey, Agog works. It's Eugene. But basically, Gabriel gets stuck there making bullets, and kind of to suffer under the hell, if you will.
Yeah, so like making all the bullets versus people are going to die. And he basically brought that up. The only thing Eugene said that was like ballsy, but he kind of knows in the back of his head that Negan needs him at this point more than ever. But he says basically to Negan, and I'm definitely, it's not word for word, but he's basically saying making all the bullets versus people are a resource. I thought people were a resource.
Right.
He goes, well, that's the last resort. Lucille gets first dibs. And he went on his whole spiel and like, all right, I'm kind of getting burnt out in the whole like Negan and love Lucille thing. That's why live or die or get tortured. I want to see Lucille get burned to like nothing.
Do a little ash pile.
Right in front of him. Right.
That'd be great. I'd love that. I'd love to see that.
I just want to see that. Then that will let the audience know, does the Negan character really, really see Lucille the Bat as a person, as a entity that is like a living thing that he connects with and communicates to, or is it just part of his whole facade? Because if that thing burns up or whatever and he doesn't really have a reaction to it, then obviously it was just one of his little
It's like his Wilson.
Yes, basically.
Like maybe there's a point in his journey in the apocalypse that he was alone and felt like he was about to snap, and the only thing he had was this bat that he was killing zombies with.
Instead of putting a smiley face with a Sharpie, he wraps it with barbed wire.
Right.
And Walker guts sometimes, right?
And Walker guts. Yeah, dude, that's...
I am Agog.
Agog. I mean, and then, of course, they do it on display. He gets the walkers out on the fence in front of all his cronies, and he puts on a whole display talking about, these gorgeous dead ones and how close they're getting to Lucille, and he gums them up, and then he shows them, and they're all like, hoorah! And it's we'll see where this goes, and I'm curious if anybody gets whopped and sent to the dark side.
Here's a last quote from episode 11. Either way, this gets you full membership. He's talking about the guts, spreading it on the weaponry.
Right, yeah.
He's talking about, what happens? You get infected, you become a member of the club. We want everyone to become a member of the club, that's all. So he says, either way, this gets you full membership, and that's what we want people to join the club. Hilltop is going to learn to get in line one way or another, dead or alive. Some kind of shit in between. and the shit in between was very reminiscent to like the flashback forward dream sequence of him in the future saying, "How are you, darling?" So like this is pretty much close to that.
And then they pretty much tied the episode up with then at Hilltop again, saying that Rick has arrived.
Yeah. So now we know that Aaron is still out there trying to bring in the Oceanside ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Hilltop hasn't really had any casualties. They have prisoners, which is a good thing. And all the Alexandrians survived their trip to Hilltop. So everyone's together without Carl. But they're together, and they're ready to kick some ass. So this episode 12 should definitely give us an idea of what their plan is now. I'm guessing from the previews it looks like Maggie and Michonne are kind of not at Hilltop. They're kind of a few miles away or something. I guess they're covering the perimeters with their walkie-talkies to let everyone know which way they're coming.
Right.
And then they could sort of like figure out what they're going to do. But my favorite sneak preview, they showed at the end of the show, and they showed in Talking Dead, and you could find it on YouTube as well, is Simon's driving and Dwight's sitting shotgun in a big box truck. And they're following a couple other saviors, cars, and it's caravanning through this like ghost town. Which, by the way, I thought coming to the studio tonight, where in the world did they film that in Georgia? Where did they find like a 10 by 10 block town with just boarded up buildings?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably the same spot where they had Morgan when they rediscovered Morgan and he was like ripping open the bodies and stuff like that. Remember when Morgan had his own little like...
Oh, and he had all the traps
all
up?
the traps up?
Yeah,
I bet you it's the
that.
same. If you go on Google Maps, you could find out a Walking Dead tour, driving tour, and even if you're not, you could just Google Map it and like click on all the cool icons and find out where they filmed
now,
stuff.
Didn't you go to some of them yourself?
I did.
Off tour, you just drove them yourself?
I did. I took the fam to South Carolina halfway there. We stopped in Atlanta to see the aquarium, and also I went all around town. I took pictures where Rick was in the tank from episode 1, season 1. I took pictures of where Carol and Daryl went off of the bridge in the van, nose first.
Woo!
And a plethora of other scenes of various seasons. But like as I was driving through the back roads, I'm like, what? That happened here? This happened there? I mean, even Taramis was actually right behind the Atlanta Braves Major League Baseball park. Like, I thought that for sure was in the far-out region of Georgia,
right,
but
like,
that was actually in the city.
They just built Terminus right behind the stadium?
You
told me that, yeah.
It's wild. I don't think they
awesome.
necessarily built it. There was an old,
like
train,
a train yard or something.
Yeah.
Right,
Scrap something.
Huh.
But anyway, that aside, the sneak peeks, though, Rick and Michonne enter Hilltop. Nice wide camera shot of that. Rick shown morning at Hilltop, graveyard. Daryl is nearby. Obviously, Daryl looks pretty like he's apologizing to Rick about probably sorry for driving that truck through the sanctuary.
Sorry for fucking
my
up
bad.
there.
It's like, yeah, Daryl, we know every season you're like my bad, but we're past that now. Maggie and Rosita
kind of
scoping out the perimeter of the wall as well as outside. We already said that. Simon giving out wound with guts orders, but kind of hesitantly. Saviors caravan to Hilltop. Guts with the cold guts on their weapons tactics. Rick seems to be hunting Negan's car. That's the best part. And Simon, and the look on Simon's face, seems not to mind that Rick Grimes or whoever, whether he knew it was Rick or not, was in an old Ford Explorer and creamed the back tires of Negan's little all leathered out black whatever Dodge, whatever he was driving. And he's like, shit, did you see that? And Dwight looks over at Simon and goes, that was Negan's car. He's like, I know. Oh, it was. And then he looks away from Dwight. and he has this look on his face like, yeah, that's good, that's fine, I'm good with that. Like, whatever happens to Negan.
Damn.
At this point, Simon is like, has a conversation with Dwight that we're going to see here in episode 12, basically saying, like, you think the big man's plan is going to work this time around? Because the Hilltoppers, the Kingdom people, the Alexandria people, like, they just don't give up. They just don't seem to get it. Like, we're just going to do standard protocol.
Right.
And kill one person and hope they get in line. Like, I don't see that happening. And, if Simon's going to be that way, then that basically means Simon's probably going to die real soon here.
Yeah, I mean,
I said that 2 weeks ago.
I know, we predicted that early, but I guess he's got a little more development, and I kind of like where they're going because it makes him somewhat of a
question mark.
A question mark, a competition to Negan other than Rick, a close comrade that could potentially be a rival and or a new nemesis. One that will last long, probably not, considering he doesn't have much of a ground to stand on. He's trying to take down the castle that he's in and make it his own, which is not really going to happen. He doesn't have anybody really backing him.
Right. For sure, the workers or the whatever that were part of the sanctuary, they're not going to follow Simon.
No.
And the few men they have left, which are a decent-sized small army, like, they might follow him, so that it raises an eyebrow, but once Negan's dead, like, what happens, Like, how many of them will still, like, be like, oh, they killed our guy, now let's kill them? Or would they be like, retreat?
Right.
Like, now we don't have to listen to him? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Swamp walkers, fungi walkers, which did you like better?
You know what? I like the creativity in the fungi walkers because...
The shrooms coming off the face.
Yes, I mean, come on now, PanNerdia. Let's get after it. I really like that because I don't think we've seen like algae walkers before. I think maybe like moss walkers, but the mushroom ones I think it's rather interesting.
The swamp ones were reminiscent of old school movies, but the mushroom ones were totally unique.
They were, they were, and it's they would be found in a bog like that. And so I think, and then, the swamp ones were nice because I like the black fluid, but I think ultimately the mushroom ones.
And what I really liked to hear, what I really liked about The Talking Dead is I found out from one of the producers, and Dr. Carson, that they do hire amputees to play the walkers that are crawling on the ground and stuff. And it actually adds to the whole character because, they're not totally human-like, the way their movements are and stuff.
Right.
Because they're basically just, like, triggered to eat and follow sound and smell, and that's it. And when you're crawling on the ground, you're missing a few limbs and stuff like that. Humans usually move kind of like a, military style. You're using your elbows. You're, like,
right.
you're churning. You're moving along. But if you're a walker, you're just whatever. Like,
right.
You're just reacting to sounds and smells and flopping around. You put an amputee in one of those... all the applications and then put them in water or whatever have you, and it's dynamite. It's great. You don't even need special graphics.
No, not at all. And you're giving work to people who, might not get it otherwise.
And thank you, walkers, because the show is named after you after all.
Right.
And if it weren't for that, then the show would be just one big sad cesspool of shit.
And you guys play it up because you know what? Honestly... I'm upset if I don't see a walker in an episode of The Walking Dead. And granted, they put one in every episode.
Yeah.
But it's usually, if it's like to the point where they're almost not, they'll throw like one like in the background, like meh. But ultimately, I mean, it's The Walking Dead. You still got to show these because either they're getting thinned out or we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah. I just
there's hordes that we haven't even seen, like mile wide hordes or something.
But because like Dwight and Rick and Michonne and Maggie, they're all kind of on the same page about before the last stand happens or whatever, splitting up, going around the perimeter, because it's not just military warfare. You have to factor in the dead.
Right.
They're everywhere. So you can actually use them to your advantage too, which everyone's been doing for seasons now.
And various applications, whether it be stealth and or now with Negan, biowarfare.
I am kind of sick of the whole, like, I don't know if it's necessarily fans. It's mostly people that are on these, like, shows. Like, even Chris Hardwick will bring it up once in a while, like, the whole, like, Negan the protagonist, if you're looking at through his side of the story. I understand what they're saying because, people are looking out for their own, and therefore they're just trying to find out how they kill everyone else.
Right.
But they're not like forcing women to have sex with them, women that are married to other people.
Right.
They're not bashing people in like psychopaths with, bludgeoning them to death. They're not, doing all these horrible things, these psychopath murdering things. So, no, fuck that. Like,
right.
Negan's a bad guy. I don't care if you like the actor or whatever, he's a bad guy. He has to be punished.
He's got that charismatic, that charm about him. But that's his whole shtick.
And that's fine. But he's not a protagonist. Like, I don't care if we started watching just a show about him and then he meets up with Rick, and there's no way I'm looking at Rick as a completely bad guy like I do Negan. Like, I can see Rick as a dangerous person.
Right, he'd just be more
not
of
a
that,
total bad guy, yeah.
Right, he'd be like that badass, like, rough around the edges guy, but ultimately, he's there to do good kind of stuff, Like, yeah, I feel you. I mean, I was back and forth with it, but the more and more you and I both discuss it, I do realize that he most definitely is got some screws loose, and he uses his allure to. I mean, it's a psychopath. I mean, that's what it is ultimately.
Well, I got just two little things here. One, I found out that the swamp scene was actually all like almost an entire set. I thought it was totally just location. Part of it was location, but they actually filled that thing.
That makes sense.
With
they don't
water,
want you like walking in like with real snakes,
with real
creatures and shit.
Wow, what a fan! I just have to.
That's awesome, man.
I have to give him a little applause. That was great. I hope to see more. I have a feeling this is going to be more of like car chases and guns ablaze episode and all that. That's fine, but
the nature walkers.
The nature walkers were all great.
They're always great, man. And I mean, you always got to give a hats off to everybody who goes in the production of this show. Not only the actors and actresses that we fall in love with week to week, but also what goes behind the scenes to make a show like this. And on AMC. I mean, AMC's got some good stuff. I mean, come on now. Heisenberg, get out of here. I'm all about AMC. They got quality entertainment. And sometimes we just, could see it. It has so much potential. We could see it on shows like, Showtime, HBO, and stuff like that.
But like, The Preacher and Walking Dead, they're straight up from a comic, correct?
Right, Preachers as well, yeah.
And speaking of straight from a comic, there's one last thing I have to say about episode 11. When Dr. Carson and Gabriel found that house that had all their radio equipment, in the comic, Eugene finds that place and he hears the first sounds of the Commonwealth, the next group. So maybe since Gabriel's alive, he tells Eugene, or maybe Gabriel himself, because he's blind but he can still hear well. I don't know how he's going to find all the buttons though, so maybe not. Maybe that place will come back into play, or it's just another homage to the book. There it is, but really it's not a part of the whole scenario. So I had to just mention that. I wanted to know what you guys think about that. And what about predictions from the fans? What should we ask them?
All right.
How about, do you think Simon's going to die? That's a fair question.
It's fair enough. Do you think Simon will kick the bucket this episode?
Because he's obviously scheming, and we know that Eugene passed Negan's test.
Right.
Lying his way through, and we know Gabriel passed the test, and we know that Dwight miraculously passed the test, and has Negan's confidence.
Right.
But Simon right now is kind of teeter-tottering, and it's more his fault than Negan's intuition. So I think Simon's going to get himself in some trouble here, whether he dies or not. So if you guys want to blast some comments during the show, if you're watching The Walking Dead right now and you're pissed off at the commercial breaks being so long and you want to tune in to us, come join us. Pre-game with us next week.
Yeah.
And always, unless you have something else to say, enjoy the enjoyment. I know we will.
We will always enjoy the enjoyment.
And we will enjoy episode 12. And
you can catch us next week, guys. Also, you can catch some new series coming to PanNerdia very soon. In the PanNerdia Playtime Corner with a special video series coming in about a week or so. Also be on the lookout for some painting time-lapse videos where I'm going to be painting something I hold dear to my heart, some Dragon Ball Super, and then as well as a series of tutorials on how to paint. They're going to be very interesting. Look out for that soon.
Looking forward to it.
Check us out next week here for the Walker Talkers. AA Ron out.
Pete, peace, and you know what else?
What's up?
It's time for Walker Talker.
Walker Talkers.
The Walker Talkers.
The Walker Talkers, motherfuckers. Yeah.